Comfortable. So we're going to start in Shavasana. You might like to bring your bolster underneath your knees just to make your back a little bit more comfortable. I'm Dee, by the way. We've got an hour of balance together, hour of bliss. So if you have weight bags, you don't need them, but if you have them, you might like to place them on your hips or even on your legs, feet. Just coming to a comfortable, flat kind of position. Our focus for our practice today is going to be along the spine, the whole length of the spine. So we're going to do a fair bit of myofascial release, as well as some long held poses and stretches, obviously, that our yin practice is. But for now, just focus your breath moving or traveling through your spine. So visualize the breath moving up the spine and then back down the spine with every in and out breath. There's that age-old saying, where the mind goes, energy flows, and it's actually proven. Western science has managed to prove it. That where you set your attention, your focus, especially in the body, what they've proven is that it increases blood flow. And that blood flow is healing. It sends signals to the body to heal itself. Our bodies are healing machines, as long as we give them the right environment. And this practice, our quiet, self-reflective yin practice, is the perfect environment for healing. Whenever you notice your mind wandering off into your to-do list for today or just some general distractions, come back to your breath. And that visualizing the breath traveling through the spine up and down. What we're going to do for our practice today is we're going to do a pose, and we hold the pose for the extended period of time to allow the tissues to relax as much as they can through the stretch. And then we'll do myofascial release after a pose, and we'll go back into another pose targeting another section of the spine, and then myofascial release. So we'll just keep working like that. So you can really explore what I'm aiming to do. Hopefully I'll have enough time, is to time the class so you can sort of take a mental note for each section of your spine, and whichever section you feel is the most tense or needs the most attention, hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll give you enough time, I'll make sure of it, give you enough time towards the end to go back to that area. So we're going to start off with our lower back, and we're going to start in caterpillar. So your bolster underneath your knees, that's all you need. Blink your eyes open, use your core, lift your head up, maybe dig your elbows in, bring yourself up to a seated position, literally so you can just fold yourself over your legs. As I mentioned, bolster's already there. Cross your forearms, maybe rest your forehead on your forearms. You don't have to, you can just kind of rest your forehead on your legs, tuck your chin, close your eyes. If you have a block handy, you can bring that on top of your bolster, rest your forehead, or even out in front if you have the range. Just find that forward fold. Keep focusing your breath on that travel through the spine, up and down, but see if you can bring a little bit more attention to your lower back area. Because remember, where the mind goes, energy flows, blood flow. And so we'd like that energy, that healing energy, to sort of travel and center around that lower back area. Soften as much as you can. There's a beautiful understanding in the yogic world that the beginner's mind is a really valuable mind, because the more experienced we are, not just in our practice but in life in general, the more conclusions our minds make. And through those conclusions, there's expectations, there's judgments, and quite often even criticisms. Krishnamurti said that a mind that is full of conclusions is a dead mind. A living mind is a free mind, always learning, never concluding. And we're aiming to free the body from tension. At the same time, as we approach this practice with that kind of beginner's mind, no conclusions, no expectations, we get to free the mind as well. So you've got 5 more breaths. So we're going to work on the sort of the major parts of the spine first, so lower back, middle back, and then shoulders. And then we're going to break it down and go to some less major sections of the spine. So slowly come up, keep your bolster where it is. As you lie down with your balls, one in each hand. And then bring your feet onto the bolster once you're on your back. And then one ball in each hand, slide it underneath the small of your back. So right at your lower back area. Now, if you sit a lot, or if you've just got a lot of lower back tension, this might be enough. Just with your feet on the bolster, balls underneath either side. You can add in just a little rock from side to side. I find that the longer I hold, especially in my lower back, the more tension sort of comes to the surface to be able to be released. At first I don't feel a great deal, but then after time I feel a lot. So just work slowly, gently. Target area where we do myofascial release work, relaxed. So if you feel any tension through that lower back, send your mind there to release that tension and allow the massage to go a little bit deeper into the tissues. Now from here, you can just keep these feet on the bolster, rocking your knees side to side. If you're feeling a lot of sensation there, a lot of release, perfect, stay. Otherwise, you can either drop one knee all the way down and then the other knee all the way down. The further it goes, you'll feel the pressure on your back. But if you need more pressure, you can hug one knee, just one at a time, into your chest. Or it won't go all the way to your chest, just towards your chest. And I like to call that knee a bit of a joystick. So you take the knee out wide, and I like to do a little bit of a rocking motion, just so it kneads the tissues in the lower back. Now there's lots of muscles through this lower back area. It needs to be, because it needs to stabilise the whole pelvic girdle. And so there's the superficial muscles, one closest to the surface, but there's also some really deep ones. And if you have any lower back tension at all, you'll feel it through every layer. But you want to dig past the superficial layers and go to the really deep layers. You do that by, more pressure. So hugging your knee in and just kind of exploring the knee out to the side, and knee like straight up. You'll feel the balls on both sides, but more so on the knee that you're drawing in. So maybe just do the first side for another, 5 to 10 breaths. And then you want to make sure that you explore the other side as well. And a little mental note, no conclusions, no expectations, no judgments. Just a mental note if one side is more tender or tighter than the other. That's the side you need to focus on the most. You need to give both sides a nice little go, but the side that you feel it the most on, to gain balance in the body heals best when it's in balance. So again, to bring the body back into balance, the side that you feel the most sensation on, the side that feels tighter, then I would highly recommend you spend the most time on that. So if you haven't swapped over already, swap over. And we've got about another 3 minutes. I'll let you know when we've got onto our last minute, so then you can make sure you're on focusing on the side that needs it the most. Now there are other options if you're feeling kind of even, right side to left side, and you know there's still tension there, but it's kind of even tension, and you need a little bit more oomph. You can do both knees together. Obviously it's going to use more arm strength, and you're going to put more pressure into the tissues in your lower back. It might feel a bit bruising, and it might even feel a bit tender tomorrow, but you get used to it. Your body gets used to it. I did a massive myofascial release session on myself yesterday, and I don't feel bruised at all, and it's just because the tissues are used to it. If you need more than that as well, you can bring your hands in behind your knees. You can lift your pelvis right up off the floor, so your whole weight, pelvis weight, is on the balls, and then you can just kind of explore side to side, up and down. We do like to say though that, you know, if your muscles are really tight and they feel a bit like guitar strings or ropes, try not to flick over them. Try to massage the length of them or around them, because that flicking might just cause a little bit more tension or even some inflammation. So just take it easy. And sometimes we often teach as well, less is more. So if you're feeling a lot of sensation, feel free just to pull back, because just the pressure of the balls on the tissues is going to help them. It's going to send signals there to help them relax. So you've got a minute left, just over actually. So if you are feeling, you know, more sensation on one side, more tension on one side, then now's the time to really focus on that side. This kind of work, there's no right or wrong. Everybody's different, needs different things. So it is very much a self-directed massage. You can choose how heavy you want to go. You can choose the area that you need to focus on the most, or just explore that whole area. 3 more breaths. And then just to wash this out, we're going to do a twist. So bring your knees back up. You can roll over or lift the hips up, whatever works. Move the balls out. Pop the balls off to the side. Keep them handy though, because we're going to use them a lot. And then you can keep your bolster where it is, or you can bring it over to your left-hand side. Up to you. Cross the right leg on top of the left. Drop your knees over towards the left side. So you can keep your feet on the bolster where it is, or you can move the bolster around so it's supporting the knees on the left side. With the right knee crossed over the top, you'll feel a bit of a hip, outside edge hip of that right hip, which is then connected to your lower back, and then obviously through fascia and all the way up your erector spinae. As you breathe, see if you can soften through your kind of mid-back area. The whole spine is in rotation, obviously, but see if you can really send that attention to the mid-back. You might even like to finish the rotation of the spine off by dropping your head over towards the right shoulder, extending that right arm out to the side as well. And if you're tight through your shoulders, you might even feel a bit of a pec stretch here. to gain freedom. Freedom through the practice, physical freedom, releasing tension. The mental freedom comes from focusing your mind on the breath travelling through the spine, up and down. But also freedom from conclusions and expectations and judgments, noticing if they pop up, because, you know, we're all very experienced in life with age. And so the mind often draws conclusions, often predicts even what's going to happen, where we're going. Just from past experiences, but what yoga teaches us. The very first word of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, which is one of the most traditional texts of yoga. In Sanskrit, it's atta. In English, that translates to not bound. At means not, ta means bound. And so we want to unbind ourselves from all the conclusions that our mind makes from past experiences. And by doing that, we gain freedom, but we gain this newness and freshness in every experience that we have. We're not walking into an experience or a conversation or, you know, maybe even a confrontation or whatever it is with an expectation or with a conclusion of how it's going to end. Instead, we just open ourselves up, that living mind, as Krishnamurti said, living mind is a free mind, always learning, never concluding. Find 3 more breaths. Follow, focus on 3 more breaths. And then gently lift the knees up, unravel them, and just plant your feet on the bolster again if your bolster's still there, if not on the floor. Straighten out through your spine, squaring hips, but just lay at centre for a moment. Just allow those tissues to come back to sort of a more neutral length and shape before we balance it out with the other side. So again, if you use your bolster on the left side, then bring it over to your right side. If not, again, it can stay as is. This time your left leg will cross over the top of your right and your knees will go to the right side. I like to shift my hips to the left just a little bit and then drop the knees to the right. So feet are either on the bolster or knees on the bolster onto your right. You don't need any bolster at all, that's also an option. And then maybe you extend your left arm out, taking your head over towards that left shoulder, maybe feeling a subtle or more pec stretch. And then settling into following the breath, in and out, up and down the spine. Noticing the more you do that, the more you concentrate and focus on the breath, the less the mind is able to conclude, the more freedom it brings to your mind. That's the essence of every yoga practice, every style of yoga there is. meaning freedom from the bondage of our mind. And if your mind wanders off into that world of distraction, then the breath is your anchor. You bring it back to that natural in and out flow of the breath, as well as the breath traveling through the spine. And then it will bring the mind back into that space of freedom. Got 3 more breaths. And again, unravel back to that center position. Allowing the tissues to come out of the rotation back to neutral. So then we call it the recoil or the rebound effect, because when we're in the twist or whatever the pose that we're in, the muscles or the target area generally are at some form of stretch or compression. And so we're pushing fluids through the body, through those tissues. And we use the analogy of, it's like you're stepping on wet sand or even a wet sponge, and the liquid pushes out of the sponge, but when you take your foot off it, it soaks back into the sponge. That's what our muscles are like. And so this recoil, the rebound effect, is really important, because this is where the muscles get to soak up sort of these revitalized, reoxygenated tissues or fluids. It helps to hydrate. So we're going to spend just a couple of minutes. This area, I'll be honest, is not pleasant. It's still in the lower back, so grab the balls, but it's at the high end of your lower back, at the base of your ribs. So this is where you'll start to feel some of the bony prominences of the ribs. And like I said, it's not pleasant, I'll be honest. 1, because of the bones, but 2, because the tissues around this area can get really tight, just through the attachment areas. So it's higher than the small of your back. We've just come off the small of our back. It's a bit higher than that, still that lower back area though. Not quite at the middle back where your shoulder blades meet. So you want to find that area, and it's the same thing. You just kind of got to sway your knees from side to side. This is actually where your diaphragm connects. T12, right at the base of your ribs, is where your psoas muscle meets, the diaphragm there meets, and the quadratus lumborum meets. So it's a really big junction area, lots of kind of nerves there as well. And if you've been feeling any kind of stress or anxiety, this area can get really jammed. So your breath, because of the diaphragm attachment, your breath is really important. Make it really full. Try not to make it too shallow or too quick. And that's a good indication. Like if you get into an area where you lose your breath because the sensation's so full on, then that's your body telling you to pay attention and to give it some time, some awareness, some breath. Now again, you can draw a knee in. You can do that little joystick kind of knee in this area too. If you find a ropey muscle or a sort of a guitar string muscle, try not to flick over it. See if you can instead really go like on top of it, on the apex of it. And here is really big on referring sensations. Because of the junction area, you might feel sensations into your hip, even deep into the front of your hip. You might feel it around the front of your rib cage through the diaphragm. You might feel it deep into your lower back. Even if you're not feeling a great deal, even if it's just subtle, there's a lot going on, a lot of benefit going on. Again, explore one side to the other. One side is really full on, then that's the side that I would say spend most of your time on. We've got about another 2 minutes. I'll let you know when we're down to our last minute. Generally what happens in our back area as well, even though you might feel tension in your lower back, all the back muscles work as like a big band and they're all fascially connected to each other. And so where you feel a bit of tension through your lower back, it creeps up higher, and quite often where you feel the most sensation is not where the problem is. It quite often happens either higher or lower, or on the opposite side, like it zigzags up the spine. So this kind of practice, this work, you've got 1 more minute to go, just gives you like highlights the areas that you need to pay attention. And the tools, you can do this at home, lying down at night if you watch TV, pull up a mat if you're on hard floorboards. If you're on carpet, awesome. Grab a couple of tennis balls from Woolies or, these kind of really hard myofascial release balls, and spend your time, releasing out those tight spots just before you go to bed. You'll notice big differences over a short amount of time. But like anything, if you only do it once a blue moon, you'll still notice a benefit, it just won't be lasting. Five more breaths. And we're going to move to that sort of upper back in between shoulder blades, but we're going to stretch it out first. So just place the feet on the bolster, again reach around however you can, move the balls out from underneath and pop the balls off to the side. Just for 5 breaths, hug your knees into your chest, because we've done a lot of work on that lower back area. Just let those muscles sort of restore a little bit, just a gentle knee hug. Just while you take your last sort of 3 breaths here, we are going to roll over onto our bellies. And you can roll over so you're facing the back of the room, that's fine. We're just going to take it into a shoulder blade, back of the shoulder stretch. So your bolster can stay where it is, or actually push your bolster down a bit further away from you, because the tops of your feet, when you roll over, are going to rest on your bolster. And then just flip yourself over. There's always one water bottle that goes astray. And push the bolster down so just the tops of your feet rest on the bolster. And you're lying down on your belly. We'll go straight into the pose, so it's just to thread the needle. Bring your right arm in underneath your chest, palm facing up, and then your left arm's your pillow. So you bend it and rest your forehead on it. And then just relax. Relax through the back of that right shoulder. Breathe into, especially the back side of your lungs. What a lot of people don't know, our lung capacity, majority of our lung capacity is actually in the back side of our rib cage. Only 40% is in the front side, 60% is in the back side. But because the back side of the rib cage is so tight, so structurally stable, the lungs don't get, the front of the lungs get most of the air and movement. So this is a really beautiful opportunity to fill up the back side of your lungs, almost like you're trying to puff up the back of your chest. And in doing that, one, you might feel some stretch happening through your intercostal muscles, the little muscles in between each rib. 2, you might feel some knots. So if you feel like a sharp kind of pain anywhere, it's probably just some tissues that are a little bit tight in a certain spot. And focusing, sending your attention to that area and your breath to those spots are going to help them release before we do the full massaging myofascial release. I'm just going to do another 5 breaths on this side. And then we're going to transfer it straight over to the other side to continue that deep breathing and that back shoulder kind of stretch. Just slowly pull that right arm out from underneath, and then do the same thing with the left. Slide it under your chest, palm facing up for most of us, or whatever's most comfortable for you. Lay down over that arm, the right forearm becomes your pillow. And then breathe into that left shoulder, backside rib cage. don't forget, where your mind goes, energy flows, blood flows. So really focus on that back side, upper back. Five more breaths. When you're done your 5 breaths, slowly peel that arm out from underneath and just lay comfortably, just for the recoil, that rebound. Whatever, it doesn't matter what it looks like, just lay. And then the tissues back to normal, soaking up, rehydrating. We flip ourselves back over onto our back. Grab the balls, leave your bolster quite far out in front, just so you can bring your feet flat to the floor, knees to the sky, because we're going to need a rocking motion for this one. And so you can either, from the top end, bring the balls in. I actually like to, from the bottom end, lift my hips and slide a ball in underneath, and you want them to be right at the back, in between your shoulder blades, right on your rib cage there. The balls are really close together as well, so they're right either side of the spine. And that way you'll miss your shoulder blades, the actual blade itself, scapula. Now from here, you can do a little rocking sensation. So you rock your hips forward and back. So tilt the hips forward and back, and that'll massage the tissues, just in that little spot that they're in, maybe a couple of centimetres worth. And then once you've done that, you can dig your feet into the floor, lift your hips off the floor, and dig your heels or draw your heels back towards your butt. And then that'll make the balls roll up your back. Just a few centimetres again, place your hips down and rock up and down. And then you do that again and again until they get right at the top of your shoulder blades. And then I would say it's the opposite to go back down and pick the spot that's the most, you find you're gaining the most sensation out of. Once you've got the balls sort of right, either in between your shoulder blades or sort of the top end of your shoulder blades, the rocking sensation's awesome. The tissues do go transverse, they do go across ways, so you can go side to side, but I find that most of those ropey tissues are lengthways, so it's better if you just keep the massaging lengthways, kind of knead out, roll out the muscles. But then you can get your arms involved. So you can bring your arms direct to the sky, you can take them out wide, you can give yourself a hug, like a big bear hug, one elbow on top of the other, one arm on top of the other, and then the other side. You can even bring your arms above your head, and you can even do a little sort of side when your arms above your head, just to sort of side to side. All you're doing is exploring all the tissues and maybe the knots that are in that shoulder blade, upper back area. For most of us, there's a lot going on. Your breath is really important. Remember, the lungs, expanding the lung and the ribs against the balls, really good. At first, you know, if you get a big sort of sensation, a big knot, it might take your breath away a little bit. So then you want to really focus on gaining that breath back. Got about 2.5 more minutes. Another minute. Might like to go back to a knot if you haven't already. Last 3 breaths. And then just on these last breaths, make sure the balls, see if you can roll them up so they're quite high at the top of your shoulder blades. And then keep your feet flat to the floor, knees to the sky. And we're going to do just a neck stretch. So you're going to interlace your hands. You can take your elbows wide. Interlace your hands behind your head. And then you're going to draw your chin to your chest with the balls underneath those sort of top end shoulder blades. Draw your shoulders down and then chin to chest. And just hold it here for about 10 breaths. You can explore a little bit side to side. You can stay for a bit longer if you're in a really good spot, you're getting a lot of benefit out of it, then by all means I do encourage you to stay. Otherwise, we slowly release and reach around and grab a ball out from underneath, one at a time. You're just going to need one ball, so pop one ball off to the side. You're going to need your block, so grab your block. You're going to place the block on the lowest level like a pillow for your head. It's not the most comfortable pillow, I know. But what we're going to do is we're going to place the ball on top of the block, and then you're going to start on one side, right where the skull, the base of your skull meets your neck. You're going to massage the ball into that. Now this can be quite intense, so if you need to, you can support your head in one hand just to take a bit of weight off, especially if you feel really headachy. If this, you get sort of sharp shooting pains into your head or down your neck, or sometimes into your ear, sometimes even into your forehead or eyebrow area. That's a really good indication that you've got a lot of tension going on there, and this is the cause of a lot of tension headaches. So then I would say take some weight of your head into one of your hands and just be a bit more gentle. Otherwise you can take full weight, and as you move your head sort of side to side, you're focusing on one side to start. You'll feel the ball massage right at the base, that occipital area. Again, if you feel any lumps and bumps and, ropey kind of muscles, try not to flick over them too much. Try and kind of knead around them with the ball. You might need to shift the ball a little bit, explore the different spots. This can also be really good if you suffer from sinuses. This can help release out sinus issues and sinus pressure as well, which sucks. Just focus on this one side for another 5 breaths. And then explore the other side, and I'll give you, we'll do the same amount of time for this side, and I'll give you the last minute to go back to, or to stay on this side if this is the side that needs the most attention, or to go back to the first side. As I mentioned, our body, the way that it works, whenever there's an issue, it tends to zigzag up the spine. So if you've got a right shoulder tension, then quite often the left side of the neck can play up as well, or even sort of left side lower back. That's why we call this practice yoga balance. It is technically yin yoga, but we couple it deliberately with the myofascial release to bring the body back into balance, because that's the most conducive environment for the body to heal. We're so used to being busy and very dynamic in our living as well as our activity. This balances it out, brings that passiveness, that quiet. You can stay on this side if you like, or you can return back to the first side if you feel that's the most benefit for you. breath. This kind of work also sort of gives the body signalling to release toxins. The body holds on to toxins in tight tissues. So your breath is really important, especially that exhale. It releases a lot of toxins, and so is hydrating today, lots of water. Bring your head to sort of centre and bring that one ball right at the nape of your neck. Like there's a little divot at the base of your skull, right in the middle of your neck. And just rest the ball there, just for 5 breaths. And while you're here, just a little mental note, a reminder, a reflection maybe, on which part of your spine needed the most work. Because we're going to spend our Shavasana there, our final few minutes of practice. We're going to either just place the balls there and relax into it, just let the balls and gravity do the work, or you can do the movements that you were doing before, depending on where the balls are, through your back. So lift your head up off the ball, move the block off to the side. Unless you're choosing to stay on your neck, then by all means keep going on the neck. Otherwise, you can grab both balls and set the bolster up where it needs to be, whether it's under your knees or under your feet. And then set the balls up where you want them, where you feel you'll have the most benefit, where in your spine needs the most attention. If you can't decide if the whole thing needs attention, then just pick a spot and relax, but breathe into that pressure. Last few minutes, really gain that freedom. Focus your mind. Where the mind goes, energy flows. Lengthen your breath so it is easier to focus on. And as you do that, you'll be gaining freedom in your tissues, physically, and freedom mentally. A living mind is a free mind. Always open, always learning. Always exploring. Not bound by conclusions or expectations or judgments. props underneath, except the bolster, that can stay. Pop the balls off to the side and just lay flat, just for these last 5 breaths of practice. Let the tissues soak up, let that recoil, rebound effect. Continue the breath. A mind that is full of conclusions is a dead mind. A living mind is a free mind. Learning, never concluding. As you're ready, you're going to help yourself up to a comfortable seated position. Whatever shape that looks like, just find yourself. You might even like to roll over onto a side. You've been lying down for a while, so take your time. No sudden movements, no rush. Once you are comfortably seated, then bring your palms together at heart center, our Anjali Mudra. And we're going to close our practice off with just a gentle vibration of Om. So take a breath in. Thumbs, bring them to your third eye center, in between your eyebrows, and we bow our heads. And when we're experiencing that space of freedom, we experience universal and collective consciousness that unites us. Together we are one. Together we say Namaste. Namaste.